Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, I'm going to do a recap of the Stitch the Season 2022 online workshop. Now, this was a slow stitching workshop where we created a fabric book with 10 prompts, and the prompts were easily varied according to suit your tastes and your styles. All previous videos will be linked below. You can either go back and recheck some videos, or you can start at the beginning, and you can start at any time throughout the year. This is not just a project that has to be done now. In today's video, though, I'm going to show you the completed book, along with the 10 prompts that I did in succession, and then I'm going to go over some things that I really enjoyed, what I really discovered, etc. about the book. So let's get started with the recap right away. So here's the completed book. We have the cover, the little fake spine, and the background page. So I'm really happy with how this comes out, and I'm really pleased to show it off. Really, I enjoy this. I can't wait to show it to. I showed it to my husband and my father-in-law and made them sit through it, and it was very enjoyable. It's always enjoyable to go through this book now that it's complete. For the cover, I really like the variation here. I use the same shape, which you don't have to do, but I just like the way this looks with just the silhouette, the simpleness of the black and the red, and just having that little Merry Christmas kind of pulls it all together for me. I also like that you just see a little bit of the spine peeking through, again, pulling colors from the actual design.
So the front page was one of the earlier prompts that we did. I think it was the second prompt.
But it doesn't have to be. I purposely didn't number them. Some people might choose to number their prompts. I just think it flows better if you do it instinctually instead of numerically. There was no reason that the prompts were listed in the order that they were, but by choosing where to put them, you can get a different effect. You can make your own story, essentially. I like the bulk of this page with the little candy, marshmallows, the little candy cane, and I like the simplicity of just the colors and just a little pop of green. On this page here, I continued with those colors, again with a little pop of green, and I have a little bulk here, adding the jingle bells as well as the buttons. The next page again adds another 3D element here with this folded and stitched ribbon bow and the teeny little button. I'm pleased with the way this came out, and I liked how it goes off the page. It kind of draws the eye instead of having everything centered on the page. The next page continues with that bulk, with this little mixed media here, incorporating beads and buttons, lots of stitches, and this little washer that was wrapped to give the illusion of a wreath, like kind of a candy wreath. Very fitting for a gingerbread house. The next page I use that shape. It kind of echoes what we saw on the cover, where we're using different variations on the same image, but it's slightly different, and I'm really pleased with the way that came out. And here I incorporated a little more green on this particular layout. Now on this page that became a pocket, and I made a little fake mitten here, I love all the little goodies inside. I can just take them out, and everybody who goes through the book wants to know what's in there. So it's kind of a fun little touch to just tuck little things in here. They don't even have to be handmade. By making them handmade, I could tailor the colors and the size a little bit better, but I'm sure that you might be able to find things in your own home, in your supplies, that would fit just nicely. And on our last page here, I have a lot of contrast with the all is bright, the light theme here, with the pops of color from the embroidery floss to make the lights on a Christmas tree. I have a snowman here, a very up-close version, but I like the way that looks because it's very indicative of a snowman without building up the entire scene. You could make the entire snowman. It's just a different perspective, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that because throughout the book, I have different perspectives. You see the entire cup, you see 3/4 of the deer, you see only a portion of the snowman. And then for the final page here, I incorporated the Stitch the Season, as well as this little pine bow with lots and lots of little pine needles. And for the pine cone, I have this little bullion stitch. So I'm very happy with the way that came out. Simple shapes, but lots of repetition. So that adds to the overall effect of the book. So that's the completed book. There were a few things that surprised me, some things that I really enjoyed that I wanted to mention because I thought they really made the book come to life. The first was the addition of text. Now that's something personal that I like. You don't have to include text in your book. But I thought the addition of text on each of the pages, kind of signaling a theme for each page, really made it come together. It kind of pulled it together. Sometimes I used single words, sometimes I used little puns, other times I used phrases from Christmas carols. And this really pulled it together and made each page just a little special. The next thing I liked, that I really was surprised that I liked, it's kind of like I enjoyed the result more so than the process sometimes, but I really liked the repetition of stitches. There were a few pages where I did the same stitch, hundreds of times. Like on the back page with the greenery, each of those pine needles needed to be stitched down. And on the little pine cone, each of those bullion stitches had to be created. Now it was a lot of work at the time, but the result, it can't be beat, and I love it. Another page that required a lot of repetition was the light page. The theme was light, and the French knots created the glow and the light on the Christmas tree. Now each one of those French knots took a little bit of time, and then there were stitches besides, but the result can't be beat. It came across beautifully. Now one thing that surprised me that I really enjoyed, and maybe in the future I'll incorporate more of it or do a themed book based on it, was the addition of faces. I have the face of the snowman, which was a really beautiful and close-up view, but it was still recognizable as a snowman. I really liked the way that came out. And the other was the face of the deer. Well, that was enjoyable too, and it really made me happy. Those are things that I really enjoy about Christmas and the Christmas season, so that's probably the reason for that. But I also know that humans are drawn to faces. Babies love to see faces, adults love to see faces. We connect when we see eyes and a nose, even if they're made of buttons and fabric. Now I have two favorite pages in the book. I love all the pages, don't get me wrong, but there were two pages that really surprised me. The first one was I was giddy when I was creating that snowman page. I don't know what it was about it, but it was something about starting the book, selecting the fabrics, creating that page. It was just thrilling. So when I look back through that book, whenever I see that snowman page, I get all excited and it brings back all these great memories. The second thing that would be my favorite page was actually based on the result. The process was enjoyable too, but it was really the result that I just loved, and that was the page with the deer. I'm partial to deer, I have to admit, so I'm sure that was my bias. But when I look at that deer, I just think he's so sweet with the little antlers and the face and the little nose. So I would have to say that's my favorite page based on the results. Now there are two things that I was a little disappointed in. The first one was on the page with light. I really enjoyed how it came out, and I did enjoy the process, but I have to admit, those French knots and all those stitches, well, I never thought it would end. Every time I'd add a few more, I'd look down and I'd see at my work that I needed even more, and it kept going and going. And I probably spent 2 to 3 hours stitching those knots and those threads and those little stitches, threading the needle each time and going through it. So that would be my biggest disappointment in terms of the pages as they went. I do like the result. If I had to do it again, I'd probably do it again, just like I did. But it wasn't exactly the most enjoyable process for me, for all the pages that I had here. The last thing that really was my big disappointment, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but was when the project came to an end. I really enjoy the result of completing a project. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be painting windows, or it could be even vacuuming the floor. And no matter when the project is finished, there's a little bit of a high or reward with that. But with this book, there was a lot of disappointment. I found myself really enjoying coming to my desk and working on this book, going through the Christmas fabric and the Christmas accessories and stitching it and posting it and interacting with you, the viewer, for this book. So there is a little bit of a bittersweetness to the end. Now there were a couple of things that I wanted to mention that were really, really fascinating to me. We have a Facebook group which is open to anybody who'd like to join it. It is a Facebook group based on this particular project. So it's called Stitch the Season 2022. Other people share their work on this group, and it's restricted just to the people in the group. So nobody on Facebook other than those in the group will see your work. It's kind of like a private group. I am overwhelmed by the projects that have been posted in this group. It is phenomenal. I love waking up to see the new posts each day. They are so varied, so personal, and really exciting to see. And that was one process that I really enjoyed. It was a little bit unexpected how much I enjoyed it. The other thing is I posted 2 polls on that group because I was kind of interested in learning about you and your process with slow stitching. One of the poll questions was, what do you find about the process of creating these prompts that you really enjoy the most? Is it selecting the supplies, completing the prompt, or just having the idea rolling around in your head? And of course, you could answer with other things as well. But the majority of people really like the process of having the ideas rolling around in their head. And that's very similar to me as well. I do enjoy the process of debating and thinking and planning, all in my head, not the official planning stages, but the contemplation. So that was neat to really bond with other people and see that. The other question that I found really fascinating was I asked people how long they spent on their book, particularly on a single prompt. And I just wanted an average. And so I kind of gave groups of numbers, under 2 hours, 2 to 5 hours, 5 hours and more, or days. And the majority of people spent 2 to 5 hours on a prompt. And I think that's pretty accurate for me as well. So we have that in common. There are certain prompts that take much, much longer, like they'll take days, particularly if I have to remove stitches. But there are also lots of prompts that can be done very quickly. So I enjoyed getting to know you a little more through that process. I'd love to hear your comments on the video, on some of your pages that you enjoyed either of mine or the ones that you created. And if you'd like to go to that Facebook group and interact, please do so. I encourage it. I hope you've enjoyed this series. And if you did, please give this video a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining me today.